So it's week 3 of our Bless series, and I trust you're already finding this fruitful, pursuing Bless, and that you're having some great times of discussion and prayer in your small group. And as you know, each week we're focusing on a particular aspect, a particular element of Bless, and this week the focus is on the L of Bless, which is listen. And we just heard Poppy's story of coming to faith, and a key feature of her story was really how her friends listened to her, in that they understood her. They didn't seek to push her along or push an agenda. They just loved her. They moved at her pace. They were sensitive to her. They listened to her, and that was a really important part of her journey towards faith. It's great to be joined for this discussion by Ron Lamb, who's been an elder in the church for many years and has preached more sermons than I've had hot dinners. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not quite that much, but you've preached a lot of sermons. Yeah. And Nicky Pearson, who works as part of our finance team, but also is one of our CAP debt coaches. And for anyone who doesn't know what CAP is, it's Christians Against Poverty. We run a debt relief centre, and it's a really fruitful work. We've seen 40 families go debt-free, and many make a commitment to Jesus as well. So it's a brilliant work to be involved with. So thank you both for joining me. Let me just a starter for 10 for both you, really. I'll start with you, Nicky. Would you say that you're a good listener, and what would others say?
Well, when I told my family I was doing this, they laughed because I don't think they think I am all the time. I think they think I get distracted easily and I have lots on my mind. So I'm often thinking about other things when people are trying to talk to me. But I hope there are times when I can focus on the person talking to me and listen properly.
That's good. Ron, what about you?
I like to think that, generally speaking, I'm a good listener. But again, a bit like Nicky, if you ask my family, they might say something totally different.
Yes. I think I have to make an effort to be good. I naturally inhabit kind of an internal world as a sort of an introvert, and so I've often got other things kind of going around my mind. So I know I have to make an effort, and I think probably my family would say exactly the same, that I'm not necessarily the best listener all the time. But Nicky, as I said, you have a role as a CAP debt coach, and actually listening must be really important in that. And I don't know, what effect have you observed in people who are in different situations, but often in quite a desperate situation, having somebody there who's listening to them and understanding them, not judging and all that kind of thing? What effect does that have?
It's really important. Many people we meet are very lonely, and they don't like telling their story. They're very fearful, but they actually. But we're trying to build trust with these people, so we really try and encourage them to talk to us. And that does build trust, and you see that they really appreciate the chance to speak about what's been going on, which can be quite painful. But for someone to listen and not judge and not have an agenda, is very important.
Yeah, I guess there can be quite a sense of shame sometimes, and a bit of worry. I guess for people to even phone CAP in the first place is a massive step. But then to be relieved that there's somebody coming in who is just going to listen to them and has time for them. Yeah. I guess that's a massive deal.
Yeah, it is. It's a real privilege to be able to do that with somebody.
Yeah, that's great. So what sort of things, because as we've all just said, we may sometimes think we're good listeners, but actually maybe we're not all the time really good listeners. So what sort of things do get in the way of us listening well to people?
I think one of the big things is when we are preoccupied with our own concerns. And so if we're preoccupied with our own concerns, then we tend to focus in on ourselves rather than on the other person. And I think one of the skills of listening is to focus on the concerns of the other person. And when we do that and we show our genuine interest in other people, then I think that really helps us in our listening. It's easy as well to be trying to do two things at the same time. You're busy in life, you're reading the newspaper, or you're looking at your mobile phone, and someone's talking to you, and you're not really giving them the full attention that they probably deserve. And I think maybe we're all guilty of that from time to time, and it's something that we need to be careful that we try and avoid, I think. Because it doesn't really value the other person.
No. Yeah.
I think listening values the other person. When you listen to someone, genuinely listen to them, then you give value to that person. And I think that's so important, especially in our culture where I think many people are not listened to and they're desperate to be listened to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's one of the strengths of CAP that you mentioned, Nicky, as well.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think gets in the way? listening, either for you personally or that you observe?
I know naturally I'm quite an impatient person, so I'm always thinking of time. So that's hard. So I do have to force myself to focus and not interrupt is a really big thing. It's and to come in with a solution straight away. That's always I can fix that. And actually sometimes you need to sit back and just let them talk. And just tell them, let them know some way that you've heard them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point actually about wanting to fix things and come in with a solution rather than. I still find it very difficult to get that concept into my head that when somebody's talking to me, they're not necessarily looking for me to come up with an answer, but they just want to be listened to. It's not my tendency at all. No. So I think mobile phones are a massive part of that. How often you can find just talking to somebody while you're doing that, and you think, put that away, or staring at the TV while. I think my wife has kind of she doesn't try to talk to me while the football's on or that kind of thing. So she's learned in that way, but I need to learn as well to be better at listening. So how can we listen well? Then what kind of thing? I mean, this might seem very basic and tips for beginners in listening, but how can we listen to people well?
I think one of the things that we can do is give them eye contact, and perhaps sometimes as well when they're telling us something to just reaffirm that back to them that you're actually understanding clearly what they're saying. I think those kind of things are helpful as well.
Yeah.
So not trying to interrupt them too soon is important. To let them explain exactly what's on their mind is helpful, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that with Bless that we talk about is listening before speaking, because actually listen out for what's going on in people's lives. What is God doing in their lives? What hurts and struggles are they having? So again, coming back to CAP, what kind of things are you listening out for as somebody is speaking?
But sometimes it's the thing they don't say, isn't it? It's the person that they don't mention, or it's the year that they brush over or something like that. And sometimes. You might want to prompt them, and sometimes you need to hold back if it's too difficult.
So it's not just listening to what they say, but also noticing what they're not saying, or what their body language is saying, and that kind of thing. So is there anybody in your life who actually is a great model of listening? So somebody's a particularly good listener, and that actually you can learn from?
I think my wife Joy is a very good listener.
Right answer.
And I think one of the things that she does very well is she doesn't interrupt people. She gives them her undivided attention, and she'll ask questions that are relevant to that person that help them to say even more. So I'm a lot more patient than I am when listening. I think.
What about you, Nicky?
Oh, I was thinking that sort of some people in my home group, which are great listeners, and what was impressive is those people that come back a couple of weeks down the line and say, "How was that thing that was going on?" They remember, and that means a lot. And I know again that means a lot to CAP clients. If you get the chance to pray with a client and you mention that issue, that because it really means you've heard, isn't it, and remembered. I think that's really.
And some of us have memories that can do that very easily, but other people need to write stuff down. But it's a good idea to do it because it does. It means an awful lot to somebody, particularly people we're talking about on our blessed list, and that you're able to go back 2, 3, 4 weeks later and say, "Oh, by the way, how's that situation? I've been praying about that." And
that job interview or
it like means it does mean an awful lot to people that you would care enough to remember what's going on in their life and to pray about it and to ask them again. Really, really important.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yep. Well, that's great. Thank you both for taking part in this discussion. Again, as I say, every week with these, there's lots more we could talk about, but listening is such an important one. It's something that many of us don't find all that easy, but I think if we're intentional about it, we can do it. We can listen well to people. We can learn to listen well to people, and it combines so well with when we eat together and when we serve people. It's all combined in together. All of these blessed practices. So it's over to you to discuss in your group, but let's keep encouraging one another in this, in pursuing these blessed practices. Do you know it takes 6 weeks of doing something every day to form a habit, and we really want the pursuit of these blessed practices to become a habit for us as a church, but for us as individuals within the church as well. And we want to hear your stories. We want to hear your stories of doing blessed. No matter how small or insignificant they may seem to you, actually your story could be a great encouragement to somebody else. And so do keep sharing what's going on, not only within your group, but outside your group as well, so that whenever we meet together, we're talking about this stuff, we're celebrating successes together, we're celebrating stories of what God is doing, and we're spurring one another on to continue being intentional in blessing others.